the host of the Fireside Chats. We just want to wish you a good evening and that you have recovered from the heroics of the box yesterday and the Proteas. It was an incredible experience to see both our national teams on the cricket field and on the rugby field really show what the winning spirit of South Africa can achieve, and how that moment just bound us together in solidarity. A really powerful moment, I think, for South African sport. And now we've got New Zealand in the finals, which it should be a very interesting game. So yeah, we will sit and wait for that day, which promises to be incredible rugby. So tonight I have the pleasure of hosting two incredible leaders who sit on opposite sides of the spectrum from a age point of view, but certainly not from an experience. I mean, Rise Mzansi and the National Leadership Collective, what we pride ourselves in is we don't use age as the baseline or barometer for knowledge and wisdom. We love to create a space where everybody's contribution is seen in a positive light and is seen and taken with respect. And so, whilst Ndate Ish and Lawrence Manaka sit on opposite sides of the age spectrum, they certainly make an equal and valued contribution to the Rise movement and organization. To those who don't know much about us, Rise Mzansi is a political party registered this month. So we will be contesting elections in 2024. We are committed to this journey of achieving and really experiencing the South Africa we deserve, which is a safe, prosperous, equal, and united South Africa in one generation. We are young enough, and therefore the fruits of our labor must be experienced within this lifetime and not only in the next. And so the work that we do as a political organization at the moment is really about galvanizing people and building coalitions broadly with society behind the common goal of building this South Africa that we deserve. So part of these sessions are really to get you to get introduced to some of our National Leadership Collective members and leaders. Tonight, I have the pleasure of having Ishmael Mkhabela in full. He is one of the seniors and stalwarts that sits at the table that helps guide the work that we do as a National Leadership Collective. And so we see him as an advisor. We see him as an incredible leader when it comes to organizing around civil society broadly. And he has extensive experience in that world. And we are very lucky and honored to have Ishmael Mkhabela as part of our team. I also have the remarkable and powerful Lawrence Manaka. Lawrence is our leader responsible for our student chapter as well as the youth. You would all know tuning into this that actually the mean age or the median age of the South African population is 28. And therefore, young people are fundamental to all aspects of South African life, notwithstanding, the politics of the country. And part of the work that we want to do as Rise Mzansi is really reconnect young people to the world of politics and redefine it in such a way that makes it interesting and worthwhile for them to participate and get involved. So Lawrence has got a big task of basically growing our entire community of youth, but also partnering with various civil society organizations that work and operate in the space of organizing youth. Whether it's in education, healthcare, you name it, we are looking to make sure that we have the youth voice find full expression in the journey of Rise Mzansi. So that's just a brief introduction. Today, a lot of the conversation is going to be about Lawrence. We want to get to know Lawrence in a lot more detail, but we also wanted to invite Ndate Ish almost as a reflection point, because I think, they say you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you come from. And therefore, Ndate Ish and his background and his kind of view around youth politics in the country is going to anchor some of the points that we then discuss. And also, we just wanted to change things up a little bit, man. You know, this one-on-one conversation today, at least we get a three-way conversation with the National Leadership Collective of Rise Mzansi. So without further ado, I'm going to kick off, and a very good evening to everyone who's joining us. Please put your chat on the comment section, and let's have a conversation and engage. So, Lawrence, tell us, my brother. Good evening. How are you, bro?
Good evening, Leader Tebza, and good evening to Tata Ish and our viewers today. I'm good. Just came back from a very exciting moment that I'll share in a bit. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I am feeling a little bit tired. I think the festivities of yesterday were quite intense. They caught many of us off guard, and we're not as young as we used to be. You know what's nice about this conversation, Lawrence, is there's yourself, you're in your early 20s. There's me. I'm in my late 30s, and then we've got Ntate Ish, who is a senior and an elder. So we really are having an intergenerational conversation, which is quite powerful and remarkable if you think about it. So I think this is really, really cool. So let's get right into it. Kimang Lawrence, where were you born? Who is this person? What's in the name? They gave this name Lawrence. What is Lawrence? Who is Lawrence? And why is Lawrence?
Yeah. Yeah, like you saying, I think it's a full cycle moment when I lead at Debs are just, like bridging the intergenerational gap. But bon, Lawrence Manaka, Mushinini Lawrence Manaka, those are the full names. Is a 20-year-old young man, just 20, who comes from Botlokwa. So Botlokwa is in Limpopo. And I was not born in Botlokwa. I was born in Edenvale. Lived in Ivory Park for some time, then went to live with my grandmother in Botlokwa. And I think that's the case for many young people in this country. We actually get raised by our grandparents. And when I was just doing grade 3, I then moved straight, to Gauteng, and I went to live again in Ivory Park with my aunt and my dad just for a bit. And then, yeah, did my primary schooling in Bunwelong Primary School. Then later on went to do grade 8 at JB Matabani. And I think at JB Matabani, I was just now just a bit alive to the realities of South Africans, and my reality most importantly. So I think after getting into JB Matabane, I was starting to notice, like certain things that I did not like about the area that I was in and the school that I was in. Because I'm in JB Matabane even now, it's still one of the most underprivileged schools that you'll ever find basically in the area of Ivory Park. And I started, writing a bit, just questioning myself. And then at JB Mataban is actually where I found basically, I think I want to say my calling, because that's where I found my love for activism. Because from the questioning, that translated into action as soon as I got into grade 10. But yeah, I'll go into the details as you are asking. But the whole idea is that Lawrence Manaka is a young man who's currently 20 years old, goes to UJ, and I'm doing my 3rd year at UJ, and I'm doing economics and political sciences. And I hail all the way from Limpopo, Kobotlokwa.
Thanks, Lawrence. And what do you know about your name, and why the name? What does it mean to you? And why that name was given to you?
so so it's a funny story. I don't have a name that belongs to me. So Lawrence was actually my grandfather from my father's side, and then Mushinin is actually my grandfather from my mother's side. So I don't really have a name that belongs to me, but they belong to me now. What do they mean? I think as for Mushinini, I know that it means a wise serpent. As for Lawrence, I'm still trying to find out what that name means. Because I really go by that name, and I think the name for me is the action basically that I've been unpacking on in this journey, and basically everything else that I've been doing. And every time you're saying Lawrence Manaka and you attach that to Lawrence, I think that's exactly what the name means. And I think for me, the name Lawrence Manaka has been basically the voice for young people like myself who cannot find words to express what is it that they're going through in this country, and where do they want to find themselves in this space and at this pivotal moment in South Africa. So yeah, like I said, both names come from my grandfathers. I don't have a name that belongs to me, but I know that one that does mean that, like a wise serpent. But yeah.
Yeah, names are important. It's the first gift we're given in the world, and that's why I always start there, because whether you've been given the reason for it, or you're living into that name, either way, I think it's important, because it's really what we leave behind when we are no longer here. So yeah, I'm excited to see how you fill the Lawrence Manaka legacy, as it were, because you really are a powerful young man, 20 years old. Why would you care to get into politics and want to save the country? And I mean, lots of 20-year-olds are out at pubs having good times, listening to piano, chilling with friends, and just wilding out. Why would you at such a young age commit your life to to politics?
Yeah, I think I met inequality at a very young age. And I think meeting inequality at a very young age and just growing up, basically seeing that division and that inequality, and coming from one of the most underprivileged communities, actually made me want to do something about, the community that I was in, and myself, most importantly. So like I was explaining, so as soon as I got to JB Matabani when I was doing grade 10, I decided that, look, so basically my school was like one of the most underprivileged, like I explained. It was made out of, like Zozos, so basically mobile classes, right? So we'll always question, why is it that the schools that are close to us actually have, like brick and mortar, and we don't have brick and mortar, right? And then just in grade 10, I then decided that I actually want to do something about this, right? I mean, it was not okay to us that the best, like some of the best schools were around us and had everything, and we are actually performing quite well, and we did not have all the resources that we needed basically to get going. So I then decided that, look, I want to do something about this. And then I ran for RCL rather in my school. And then after running for RCL in my school, I actually so I and my RCL members actually shut down the school, and we led a march of 1,500 learners. So like we got the whole school to actually march in Ivory Park, and that march actually got the MEC of Basic Education in Gauteng, then Panyaza Lesufi, to actually come to that school. But he did not just come after we marched. We actually, after marching and sending a memorandum, he did not show up. So I rallied my team, and we actually went to the DBE, not the GDE rather, just here in Marshalltown, and we actually went to demand to see him. We were not given access to him, but what then happened is that he later came to our school because we kept on pressing and sending memorandums and letters, and the media was now starting to pick up, the news. So just from then, I realized that, look, if we were able to say something about this school and it got the MEC to come here, maybe there's something that we can do to actually, change the situation at large. So the MEC came, and like usual, nothing happened in the school. Later on, the Minister of Basic Education, NG Mtsecha, also came to the school, and nothing really changed as well in that school. And that's when I also met Equal Education. So I meet Equal Education. I'm like, look, my voice alone is not going to make a difference. The collective voices will make a difference. So I then join Equal Education, and I then learn about activism. I then learn about, the legal side as well of activism, and I become an equalizer, and I start doing, equal education media interviews, and I start speaking out loud basically about some of the injustices that we as learners are facing in schools. And I was using my school basically, as a shared reality, because I remember when it was raining, we all had to go to the middle of the class, and when it's hot, we all feel hot because it's a mobile class. And then that's just when I met my love for activism. I then went on and I was advocating at equal education. We marched to the streets demanding quality education, demanding Minister Mtsekga to implement the norms and standards of school infrastructure. I even went as far as getting blocked by the then MEC of Basic Education, Panyaza Lesufo, on Twitter, because I'll always make noise, and I cared about these things. I cared about where I was from. I cared about young people, Bo Michael Komape drowning in pit latrines, Lumka Mkhetwa as well in Limpopo and the Eastern Cape, drowning in human feces. That's not something that should be happening. And I'll always think I am from Botlokwa. I could have also at some point fallen in that like pit latrine and died. But it's just that my struggle is not the same as theirs, but it's shared at the end of the day, because it's coming from the same thing. And this is the education that is supposed to be protecting us and feeding us and nurturing us. So yeah, then I decided that, look, I love this thing. I want to make a difference, basically, for myself and for other young people out there. And then just from there, I grew at Equal Education. I graduated to being a facilitator at Equal Education, and that was in 2021. And just in 2021, I decided that, look, if I want to make change, I'm going to have to actually be in a position that allows me to actually speak more, to actually, direct how certain things will be. And then I then ran at the Equal Education 4th National Congress, and I got voted in to be the deputy chairperson of Equal Education. So for people who don't know, so Equal Education is a mass, organization that is fighting for quality education in South Africa. It has more than 5,000 members. So when we're speaking about Congress at Equal Education, we're speaking about a massive thing. And to go to that Congress and go contest at the age of, I think it was 2022. Yeah, 2022. So basically I was 19. So to go contest there and speak about my lived realities and really other young people and get them thinking about how we can change the education system was actually quite powerful. So I then ran at Equal Education. I became the deputy chairperson of Equal Education. That came with the technical aspect of it, because look, I love the idea of going and saying, Minister Mtsekga, you're not serving us as young people, and we want you to actually come and account. I'm thinking at least that's what everyone else who's facing the situations would like to do, right? And then I got into that, and then from that, I then got to understand that the equal education aspect of things has the technical side of it, and there's also like the legal side of it, and there's also the financial part of being a leader basically at equal education, because then I was serving the secretariat, where we'll provide the political direction, the financial direction, and also decide what the movement has to do and what the movement has to look like. So basically, a place of lack. And then understanding that I cannot be here forever. There's something that I need to do. And also seeing that a lot of young people had actually checked out of party politics, right? And this is where you are seeing, that's why you can have a movement like Equal Education having 5,000 young people, because we as young people feel that party politics no longer speak to us, because we don't find expression there. But at Equal Education, where there's young people who find expression, and the whole idea that I could contribute and my voice make a difference, and I could hold people in power accountable directly, is what actually got me to thinking about like politics. Like you're saying, why am I here while other young people could be grooving? The fact that there's a need for us to do something as young people, and a place of lack, and me realizing that I can do something about it, is what got me here. Like you're saying, I could be grooving. I do groove from time to time, but I choose to be here because someone has to do something. We cannot all check out of party politics.
Absolutely. Let me give you a break and come to Ntate Ish, who I introduced as really a man of wisdom who holds us together and holds us to account as Rise Mzansi leaders. I think a bulk of our leadership collective is relatively young, and therefore it's almost it's crucial that we always have a wise elder who kind of directs, but never imposes, directs and provides wisdom so that we can navigate through some terrain. And I want to share this, and that the issue is that there's absolutely no ways that we could do justice to your profile and your journey on this particular conversation. I want a dedicated session with you where I will then uncover and unravel your journey, as an activist, because I think the world needs to know who that the Ishmael Mkhabela is. But for the interest of everyone watching, maybe if you can give us just a synopsis on who you are, just so that when you then speak and make contributions later, there's a general understanding of your profile and where you come from.
My name is Ishmael, and then like you asked Lawrence what his name is all about. Ishmael is a very important name, transcends religious, political affiliation, and as we talk about Israel-Palestine region, that name is important to both Jews, Christians, and Muslims. And I sometimes ask myself, wow, my dad had an inspiration. And where did he get it? Because I'm wearing that name with pride for that reason. But hey, Lawrence, you are boasting that your name is from your maternal granddad. I think let me surprise uh, people. My name too is that of my granddad. The other name is Zaba, Z-A-B-A, Zaba. That is my dad's name. I was given that name, and so when I recollect all the years I lived with my dad, he always called me dad. And then I also would like to say I will remember him consulting me as a little boy and will be seated at the table like I also sat with my young son, my son who died 6 years old. And I had come to have the same tendencies of sitting with him, Lindoguhle, and say, boy, now let's drink tea together and we'll have a conversation. Who am I? You are right. I cannot share with you all in one session. And I would also want to say that born in Johannesburg, in Mzimhlope, my first days in life was in an informal settlement, number 1 shelters, next to Orlando Stadium. I remember that as a little boy being in a shelter, actually, all those roof structures, zinc structures that at night when they contract, they used to scare me and saying that Botogolosha walking on the roof. And so I would just have to say, mercy, God, save me. But hey, we went through that and subsequently went to be pioneers in Shawelo. I was in that space 1957, 1958 to 1960. I was in Shawelo. And in the house where we stayed, because I described the previous one, and housing being my passion today, the house was a shell. And inside our house, there was an old boulder, a big boulder, which we attempted to push it out of the house. It was too big to be moved through the door. So we had to dig inside the house to bury the boulder. Symbolically, it seems my life has been that of pushing boulders, rocks, and literally, I describe my life as a professional community organizer now. It's a lifetime fighting with injustice, lifetime work with the marginalized and dispossessed. I have worked with informal settlement. Let me brag a bit, Lawrence, that Ivory Park, before it was reality, I worked with Mr. Buza of Kwa Green. I was organizing above 100 informal settlements. And from Ivory Park, there was a farm, Kwa Green. Ask those who are older, they will tell you about it. We then identified the fact that Ivory Park should be a township. So at one stage, before it was declared a township, uh, the days of Shikeka as a government official and others, I had to do quite a lot of agitation in a very quiet way. There's a noisy way of organizing people and a quiet way. I call it like you consume them silently with a quiet fire. But what turned out is that we were saying that if the township is not declared, there will be no development in Ivory Park. So my happiest day was the day it was declared a township. And then I was asked by those who supported my work, how many people did benefit from your work? I said, go and count every child, every elderly person, every living being, count the dogs and cats. They benefited from the work I did. I see myself as a top notch community organizer, and I brag, but I think I don't brag enough.
Thanks, Taish. And I don't think it's bragging. I think we must tell our stories. There are no blank pages in history. And just hearing Lawrence speak about where he comes from, or at least where he lived for some time, without that contextual baseline, you add that color to say, actually, for you to have lived and understood that place, I understand its genesis and where it comes from, which is an important story to tell. We must tell our stories, otherwise they get told for us and they get distorted. So we definitely appreciate you, Dr. Ish, and hence why I think you play such a crucial role in shaping our worldview, not only in terms of giving us a sense of the past, but also what we need to be mindful of in how people behave and connect and relate. I think we are in politics because of people. There's many other things around politics, but at the core of it, Rise Mzansi is about people. And that is why when you look at our politics, when you look at the way we talk, we say for the people, by the people. We say we, the people, shall govern. We have the people's convention that we had before in 2 weeks ago, and we then issued the People's Declaration. So you can hear the obsession within Rise Mzansi around people being at the core of our politics and truly working hard to restore, the politics of the people and giving people back their voice. Let me come back to you, Lawrence. One of the things that we always get asked is, why did you join Rise? You were in the civil society space and you shifted. I mean, there's a bunch of political parties out there that you could have chosen to go and serve in, but you chose Rise. So why Rise? And for you, can you share what Rise means to you as a political organization?
Yeah. Why Rise? I think I get that question, quite a lot. I think maybe I'll start here. I think I did mention earlier on that a lot of young people have checked basically out of party politics, right? And then we then see a lot of young people now being active in civil society. So I think this is because politics in South Africa are no longer speaking to what politics should ideally speak about. Remember that politics is personal. So politics are no longer speaking about people. Politics are no longer about people, but they've instead become a vehicle where people can go, enrich themselves, where people can go get power and speak over people. And as I was at Equal Education and I was organizing and doing the work of organizing, we were constantly pushing back against the government. But you don't have the chance to determine who becomes your leader, who makes the decisions, and who becomes the stakeholder at this table, and who gets to decide whether the community of Ivory Park is going to get a school or not. So for me, I then looked around. I was like, look, I'm looking at the political space right now, and I don't think there's anything that speaks to me because nothing seems to be centering people. If it's not popularism in this space, it's people who are just eating, you know? So I wanted something that was going to allow me as a young person to go determine who becomes the leader directly. I do not want to vote for something and let someone then make that decision for me. And I think that's where I first find, that's where I first now attach myself to Rise Mzansi. The fact that Rise Mzansi is young. I mean, you look at 90% of the people we have in the organization are literally young people. And it's, so, and I'm young and I want my voice to be heard, but I don't want my voice to be heard in a subsidiary structure where I'm going around collecting votes for the sake of, other people going to lead. I want to be at this table because I believe that my opinions are valid and that I can contribute to shaping and changing this South Africa. And Rise Mzansi happens to offer that. Young people are literally leading at Rise Mzansi. And that was one of the things for me. I said, look, young people, we've been looking for space to come say our truth. And there's this new political movement that is saying that come say your truth without being seen as young. Like we don't classify age, like we don't categorize people according to age and everything. We see everyone as equal and as an equal contributor. So I think that was the second and the third thing. And the other thing is that it's a movement. For me, how I understand movements is that people come together for the sake of one thing, and that one thing is change at Rise Mzansi. And I said, I've been pushing government. I've been fighting with these ministers on Twitter. We've literally walked through that doors. We've marched through that doors. We've picketed. We've done every possible thing that we think they hear, because really when we speak, they don't hear us. I then decided that I think I need something that is going to be a movement, that is going to be about people working together towards a common goal. And that goal is nothing but change. And I think this is why I resonated with Rise Mzansi. No one is offering that fresh alternative where people can come and say their truth, be themselves, not be classified, but just work for one thing, change. And it's refreshing. It's refreshing to know that there's people who actually care about changing this country. You drive in the CBD or you walk in the CBD of Joburg, you literally seeing the country collapse in front of you. And look, I'm 20, I'm young, and I'm thinking that 80 years from now, what is South Africa going to look like? And it seems that no one else was committed to changing that situation. And there's Rise Mzansi that's saying we actually have the power to do that. You remember one of our slogans, we're the ones we've been waiting for. That is one of the messages that got me in. I said, we've been pushing, we've been wanting it. Clearly, we realize that we can do it. And therefore, no one is coming to save us. We're the ones we've been waiting for. And I said, actually, Rise Mzansi is the vehicle where I can go, mobilize other young people like myself who have opted out of party politics to say, hey, look, you remember when we said that politics are no longer about people, but they're about political parties and leaders? There's actually something that is centering people. We center communities at Rise Mzansi. And that's one thing that I like. The fact that we want to go to communities and ask them, what is it that you care about? And then we find solutions and we organize around solutions. That's what brought me into Rise Mzansi. Because I'm thinking right now that should anyone go to where I grew up in Ivory Park, the first thing that you look at, you'll think that actually this community probably needs, they need proper streets, they need housing, but you don't know if we go to bed hungry or not. You don't know if we need that school, JB Matabane, or not, right? But Rise Mzansi is coming in and is asking me, what do I need? Therefore, I get a chance to shape and influence what could actually be on the national agenda as a person, as an individual, and that is not offered anywhere. And I think for me, that was why I got into Rise Mzansi. I was tired of pushing back, and I wanted to actually determine who becomes the next leader who's going to get South Africa back on track. And I wanted to do that with as urgent as possible. Basically, I wanted to do that as soon as I could, and I wanted to do that with other people who care about one thing, and that one thing is change and building this country. So that's that. I think that's why I resonate with Rise Mzansi. This journey for me is very personal because for the first time, I get to say my truth, and I get to see my truth and other people's truth leave to build a country that we want.
Thanks, Lawrence. And maybe as a follow-up, you spoke about Rise Mzansi going into communities and having conversations. We have spent the last 5 to 6 months doing, the politics of listening, listening politics, which essentially means that we didn't feel comfortable coming out with an attempt at building a mandate without having had conversations with South Africans. And we then embarked on a journey of going to all 9 provinces, from cities to rural areas to townships. We had conversations with business, with civil society, with organized, just organizations all around. As the head of kind of our student and youth chapter, with that lens, what would you say were the things that are occupying young people's minds the most? What are young people saying they are hurtful of as part of that listening journey that we've been doing?
Yeah, I think that might be cliche, right? But this is what you're getting out of young people. Young people want education, that's one, and they don't want exclusive education. They want inclusive education. They want proper and just and equal education. And young people want employment more than anything. Young people want to be active participants in this economy. And unfortunately, the current government that we have has not created an environment that is conducive for business to take place in order to produce jobs, or for young people to actually be hired anywhere, or even to start businesses. So these two key things is what young people are looking for. But more than anything, and this is why we see young people having checked out of politics, young people want leaders that look like them, that talk like them, and that are like them.
Thanks, Lawrence. Yeah, representation matters, which is why we have tried as much as possible as the National Leadership Collective to get as many diverse views based on profiles, demographic, and the stories that we bring to the table. If you look at the starting lineup, as it were, called the NLC, and you just look at the different people, where they come from, their profiles, it's a fascinating, melting pot of people who are very different, but there's one common thing: is they are competent and they are keen and passionate about making a contribution to that change that you speak about. One of the things that also came out, Lawrence, was just the scourge of drug and substance abuse being one of the common issues that comes out. I mean, almost every single town hall that we went to, it was a top 5 issue, without a doubt. Probably number 1, outside of food hunger and crime. Can you give us a sense of, some of the other issues that are coming out, that we are hearing, that are shaping kind of the political program of the student and youth chapter at Rise?
Yeah. So I think I've already mentioned 3. So you mentioned drugs being one of like the problems that we seeing, basically, particularly amongst young people. Crime basically is one of the issues that young people are raising. Young people are constantly saying that, look, they do not feel safe in this country. I mean, even I, as a 20-year-old young man, I cannot go walk literally outside right now. And when another person, particularly a man, approaches my way, I'm literally going to be running the opposite direction, because the first thing that comes into your head is that it's either I'm going to get robbed or I'm going to get killed, right? So some of the biggest issues that were being highlighted by people on the ground, if it's not issues around them not having access to things, like water, them having to, access to things like safer schools, basically, safer communities, was crime, basically, more than anything. So young people are complaining that, look, we are not safe in this country. They were complaining that they're not included basically in this economy. It looks like an economy is built, but this economy is meant to function without young people being active participants, basically, and without them being custodians of this. But every time we're speaking about young people, we're saying that they have the future. They're the ones who hold the biggest stakeholder, the biggest share rather in this future. And young people are saying that, look, you're speaking about this constantly, but I'm not employed. My sister is not employed. In fact, 65% of us in this country are unemployed. We have the degrees. We've done our part. We did the 20 years or 16 years in education system, and we are done. We've honored our end of the deal, but it seems that someone is not doing that part, basically. So unemployment was at the core of it all, and the fact that they're not included in the economy. Look, we do not want to go to school so that we can have fancy degrees that are just going to decorate our walls at home. We want to be able to be active participants in this economy, because tell me why, when you go to the Eastern Cape and you're engaging the community, there's a 35-year-old who tells you that in their life they've never touched a salary. So it means that they're still living with their parents to this day, right? And family politics. So that is what is at the heart of young people. They want to be included in this economy, but more than anything, they want to be part of the people that are making decisions about this country, right? There were people who came in, decided that they want a certain government. They decided systems and rules. And I know we might have, people will argue that we have one of the best constitutions, but the problem is that implementation is always a problem. So certain communities in our society find themselves marginalized more than anything. So young people, like I said, so the safety is not just a safety on the crime aspect, but it's the fact that queer people as well in this country do not really feel safe. So when you're speaking to the different communities and you're finding queer young people, they're telling you that I do not feel safe in this country. Basically, my rights are robbed off of me. We have a constitution that's beautiful, it's written, it's there, but I do not see the implementation. I do not get to have a share in the fruits of this country. Yet I'm told every day that South Africa is actually one of the best states, basically, when it comes to our constitution and everything else. But I do not get to have a share in this. South Africa is rich, basically, in minerals. But as a young person, I do not have a share. And I think that part, the economy, and I appreciate that we actually included it basically as one of the thematic areas that we're speaking to as Rise and Zansi. That economy is what is important and is what young people are speaking to more than anything. Because in my head, and when you're also consulting other young people, you get to find that they're saying that if we can actually make the economy inclusive, fix the education system, and ensure that we have leaders that have a political will, that are willing to do the work, we can actually change this country. So half the time when you're speaking to young people, it's based off of these three things, because crime is born out of that. Not having an inclusive economy, because a lot of young people, like I said, 65% of us are seated at home. What are we doing at home? Because we cannot have access to this economy. So it then leads to a lot more other things. So young people are speaking about a lot of issues, but amongst them is unemployment, is education, is an inclusive economy, and is political leadership that is willing, that looks like them and speaks like them.
Thanks, leader. We must continue to listen and refine our understanding of the issues. Many times it sounds like people are repeating themselves, but when you listen to even the spaces and the silence, we start to pick up some nuances around the world that we live in. Ndate Ish, let me come back to you. The student movement historically was fundamental in creating the space for politics to actually be nurtured. The 76 generation at some point played a fantastic and huge role in fueling this moment of change and carrying the struggle on their backs, whilst many of the leaders were incarcerated and were banned and were being killed and tortured and so on. And so young people in general, and the student population more specifically, have been crucial to kind of, the liberation movement and the liberation process. Maybe if you can share with us, just thinking and hearing what Lawrence is saying and the work that he does, a perspective on that time and what it should mean for us now as young people looking to lead.
Yeah, thanks very much. Education has been very important in liberating Africa. If you check many people who were first leaders of the African continent were teachers. And for that reason, I would like to say that for me, if I speak like I am giving my own personal testimony, uh, I think education, I started it at Sunday school, teaching children Sunday school. And then one thing which I think was very important is to find some of them coming to me and says, hey, I want to share with you a lesson you taught me at Sunday school. And that made me who I am. A guy, a mechanic who says, I don't go around stealing cars, I fix them. And thanks for the lesson you gave me at Sunday school. Education. I think Black families had strong belief in education. They would sacrifice everything to see their children at school. And for me, I also found that growing up when schools were fewer, where many young people will not have access to schooling, and when you are registered, particularly at the high school, you'll feel you are lucky. We treasured being in school and getting education. Education, not necessarily academic, you also had to learn a lot of things. I think the first generation of our top notch soccer rights in this country, the Dr. Kumalo, George Murray, George Makapan, and others, taught how to kick ball while they were at school. So, healthy young people learn in order to be employed in gainful activities, be it sports, culture, the economy, and so on, but also politics. Young people who are not more radical than I, they are a mystery to me. When I meet young people who are conservative, I actually ask myself, what kind of young person is this? Because for me and my generation, it was rare to have an elderly guy like me who's 3 times plus 10 plus older than Lawrence being involved. So I also got into politics because I also believe that I'll teach the country, but not only in schools. So when it did not work for me in 1976 to be a class teacher, a school teacher, I felt that I'll find education as a political activist. So I searched around to find anyone who can teach community organizing. And I ended up having to do it myself because the academics and the universities couldn't do that. Now, let me go back to the generation I grew up with. We were members of the student Christian movement. It was very important then. The likes of Frank Chikan, Cyril Ramaphosa, Lavon Mabasa, to give names which will ring a bell, including Jeff Radebe. We were all members of the student Christian movement. We reflected about our purpose in the world and the values we need to uphold. And within education, we also learned how to engage our teachers. And we were also uh, radicalizing teachers, and they were also doing the same. So we're sharpening one another. It was not an accident that when the Bantustan system was introduced and the fragmentation of the country. People who held a radical position, the South African Student Organization, and the Black People's Convention, the Steve Biko's Bani Pijanas, were young people. When elderly people thought it's better to have half a loaf rather than no loaf at all. We were arguing then that if you have a full loaf but rotten, throw it away. So that's why we were able to reject even the Bantustan system. When ANC and historic organizations were more accommodating to Bantustan leaders, to the last day of our liberation struggle, some of us still were resisting to work in collaboration with the system. So students were also active doing community development. We would adopt school, go and fix fences, go and do agriculture, go and build houses, go and do what actually we believed are necessary. We ran a parallel government, experimenting in alternative education, alternative health provision, and so on. Why? I think we had the ability to dream of a future which is not narrow and prescribed by those who oppressed us. As narrow as young people as well, I remember when Black consciousness organizations were banned, 19 October 1977. I happened to be at South African Committee for Higher Education after leaving Bantu Education. I was teaching people on cooperatives at then, and I was also grooming some young people for the future. When the organizations were banned, surrounded by the guys who were my contemporaries and fellow students at University of the North, we asked ourselves one question: who will be the last person to organize Black people? We said we will. It's history. When others said, no, it is not healthy to challenge the system, we actually found if indeed you don't believe in people's power, you would actually succumb to not doing it. So I think if young people believe in people and people's power, there is hope. And young people today are not participating because they were given fake political leadership, fake democracy. So you didn't ask me why I joined Rising Zansi. I actually felt we can make democracy real, not fake. We can make it real. And I actually joined Rising Suns to show I'm a liberated man. Neither age, neither history will keep me a slave of those who believe that South Africa is the ANC. South Africa is what it is. And I thought that those who are looking for Mandela, they should find Mandela in the young Tebogo, young Lawrence, and the elderly Ish. If Mandela did not have an ingredient of you and I, he was not real. And if indeed he did have that, that's what made him what he became. So I am saying let young people be involved in gainful activities. And this is what we expect from young people. Let people liberate themselves. They must not tie themselves to history and be victims of charity and gratitude. To be told that you are liberated by so and so a freedom fighter. Freedom fighters come and go. New people, new young people are the best freedom fighters because when some become liberators, they're given privileges, power, and corrupted. Let's keep democracy clean, young, vibrant, and it can be done by intergenerational collaboration. And I want also to say this, that, hey, Lawrence, I shared a trip with you, short trip, and I had to ask you, let's get music. He just played music, and I like it. I like the music, and I said, God, there's a lot in common. We have to find one another and work hard together. So I am comfortable, though sometimes there was something you did not ask, how I feel being in Rising Suns. There are times I feel, should I be a player and a referee? But I actually feel that it is fine to work and promote democracy, even promote young people who will go to parliament and be good representatives. And if by being outside, I can be able to reach you guys wherever you will be and remind you what the people want and what the dreams of these nations are, I'll always be happy. So I am there. I am there. I'm linked, spiritual, physical, and I am making a statement. Anybody who believes they need to trudge the old paths which lead nowhere, Rising Zansi is a solution. You will find new ideas, vibrancy, new life, new lease of life. That's why I joined this organization. It's both a political party, but I like the other side of it, the movement. We have tried, we have already touched some communities. My dream is that we can deepen community organizing and build people's power and trust in their leadership. This is the chance we have, and we lose it, it is lost forever.
Thank you, Taish. Always, such an honor to hear you speak because you just drop those gems, and it's really really powerful stuff. And the reason I didn't ask you those questions, I was saving them for my one-on-one with you, which I hope will happen in the next week or two, so that we can really get down into getting to know you. Because, like I said, you are a book of 1,000 pages, and we could never get through, even half of it in this session. So you will definitely get an opportunity to unravel and really go into the depths of your connection with Rise and the work that you do, which is quite specific for the organization. But I'm looking at my fellow leader, Lawrence, nodding in his head in understanding, and the ideas are so interconnected to the work that he does. We call them born frees, and yet they have been at the receiving end of the worst version of our democracy. When you reference that 38-year-old, 35-year-old who has never seen a salary and is likely to constantly live in abject poverty, it is painful. There is few things in the world like seeing a man or woman who does not understand their value, where they've made a contribution and in return they have received value, and they can then make a choice around how to use that value to build their lives. The indignity of poverty is actually unacceptable. It's abusive, it's violent, and it just has to stop. Which is why I think Rise Mzansi has started its work and the reason we exist. You were reflecting on education earlier and the sacrifices that families broadly, but specifically Black families who have nothing, how they sacrifice everything to try and get at least one or two of the kids educated so that we can unlock this poverty wheel and poverty cycle. And one of the things that for me personally hurt me tremendously was in 2012, where there was this reference of clever blacks and how the incumbent failed to deal with that as an idea, and how it really rejected so many people who were custodians and beneficiaries of that sacrifice. You're basically saying that being educated is a problem for you. and us being educated, raises concerns because we want to challenge your thinking and your approach, and therefore you package us and you want to ship us to the side so that we don't engage. And that was one of the first moments for me. I decided I was done and I needed to look at other things, is because they created an environment where education became problematic, when in fact for Black people and for the Black movement, education was the priority. And so we violently got rejected, our core and our center. We could engage with this idea that being educated was bad, when all along being educated was supposed to be the Damascus moment that leads us into freedom. So I just wanted to share that anecdote, and that's why I write about it, and I wrote about it, and I said it's time for the clever Black to rise. The intelligence and the Black middle class and those who have been beneficiaries of the education system have to rise now and make that contribution. We can't sit on the peripherals of political life and keep consuming private education, private health, living in an estate, and hope that change is going to come. Poor people and the working class have carried this country on their shoulders, and fighting for what is right. And middle class have kind of stayed back and disengaged, and for good reason. And I think it's now time that that middle class stands up and rises and becomes at the forefront of championing the change that we so desire. So yeah, those are some interesting thoughts that I wanted to share with you. Lawrence, let me come back to you. You've been doing a number of interesting pieces of work with your team. Maybe share with people listening, what do you guys do? I think the idea that you exist is important, but what does it mean to be Rise Mzansi organizing for youth power and for student power? There's an interesting march that you did a few weeks ago. Maybe talk a bit about that, the visits that you've kind of done throughout the country in all the different campuses. Maybe double down on some of that. Let's get into a little bit of detail around the political program of the student and youth chapter.
Yeah. That is actually some exciting work. When people speak about the work that we do at Rise, I actually smile, because I think every Rise and Zansi work that I do actually fills my heart. Seeing young people who had actually ticked out and checked out actually now want to come back and want to get involved, always gets me happy. But before that, and that I actually remember that trip as well. I think we were going to Tembisa, and I remember that song, "Forever Young." That song. Look, leader Tebs are at Rise and Zansi. What we do as the student chapters and youth team is that, number one, we go out and we get young people excited about our democracy first and how they can get involved in this democracy. We understand, because of the leadership that we have, we do not have the fruits of this democracy, and young people see this democracy as having failed them. And to go out and speak with young people and tell them that, look, we can actually turn things around. We don't need a bloody war in order for things to turn around. Actually, we can actually just go on a faithful day, go stand for 30 minutes or 5 minutes and tick that box, and actually have a leader that could be you, by the way. A leader that speaks and looks like you is the work that we do here. We go around animating young people about politics, saying that actually politics is not being on a pulpit and speaking to people and speaking nice. It's actually how you live every day. The arts, the music, how you wear, everything else that you do that is personal is actually politics. And that's what we do. We go tell young people about politics in a very fun way. And we go say that if you are tired and if you want something different, this is the time where you stand up. This is the time where you get involved. Other people played their role. What do you want your role to be in this country? Because we exist in this country and this world for a reason. And I think our reason as this generation particularly is to deliver a new government that's going to be functional, one that is chosen by the people. And that's the work that we go do as young people at Rise and Zansi, saying that we are the ones we've been waiting for. The great words that are behind all of our t-shirts, we literally say that it's our time, it's our turn, and if we do nothing, it's going to be our fault. So just on that, we then decided as young people that, look, we've seen so many marches happening in this country. We've seen so many young people, even the Fees Must Fall being a very like a very huge occasion for young people, where we got to activate young people's power in this country. We've seen all of that happen, but nothing has changed. We've continued to get the same leaders over and over again. Let's go tell these leaders our mind. Let's go tell them what is it that we're thinking when we see them. So we then decided that, look, we're going to go out as young people and we're going to go march to the union buildings. Other people say that, look, it's typical to march because we're always marching. But there was something interesting about our march. We wanted to give the president of this country a vote of no confidence. Because like I've mentioned, a lot of young people in this country are unemployed. We've got what we call missing middle in universities. What is a missing? If I cannot afford education, I cannot afford it. Do not classify me. Give me the education that I must get. It cannot be a privilege as young people. So we wanted to go speak and tell the president our peace of mind. So we do not want to get there, insult the president or anything like that. We said that we're going to actually, what you committed to giving us is what we're going to judge you on. So we charged the president on 8 KPAs that included, upholding the constitution, basic education, ending pit latrines, speaking to unemployment as well. We went to say, Mr. President, as young people, we are giving you a vote of no confidence because you do not speak to us. You are not delivering on anything that you promised us as a nation. The reason you are a leader is because you were chosen to go out and serve us. And we want servant leaders. We do not want leaders that are not going to serve us. And it seems that all you're doing is serve the interests of other people that we do not know. Because as young people, we are still poor. As young people, we're still unemployed. You've made education valueless in this country. Because why is it that we graduate and we do not get jobs? Clearly, you've let the country collapse. And we marched. We did a KPA reading of the president, and we collectively decided that, Mr. President, you are fired. We fired the president of the country, simply meaning that we're giving you a vote of no confidence. And in 2024, because it marks 30 years of this democracy, the one that you are demeaning, the one that you are killing, we are going to go out and vote you out. And we're going to get people that are going to build this democracy where we can actually see a separation between the state and the government, because we do not see the lines are blurred because you continue to rule the way that you're ruling. So that's what we wanted to go do as young people of this country, as young people of Rising, is to say that you failed us and we are not happy. You must know it. We cannot continue to keep you. If the people in parliament are not voting you out, are not giving you a vote of no confidence, and they're not taking you out, we are not going to we're not going to fight you by going to war that requires blood. We are going to be smart about it, and we're going to vote you out. Because what put you there is our parents' votes in 1994. No, not in 1994, but the entire government, yes, of course, in 1994. And it's going to be our vote that is going to take you out. It's going to be our vote that is going to determine the South Africa that we want to live in. Normally, when I speak to young people, I say that, look, even our neighboring countries at some point, the ones that are now declared to be failed states, were here. And people did not take the power into their own hands and do something about it. And if we are not careful as South Africans, this is what could happen to us. And as young people, we cannot sit back and watch that happen. And that's what we did. We marched to the presidency and we told Mr. President that he is fired. And after that, the presidency actually wrote back to us saying that they acknowledged our memorandum. Our memorandum was plain. It was saying that, Mr. President, you are fired. And if they've acknowledged the memorandum, why is he still in office, basically? Why is he still why is he still pulling the strings? So that was the whole idea. We then released a statement, we then did videos, and collectively as young people said that we do not appreciate you writing back to us. What we want to see from you is either stepping down or the parliament voting you out together with the administration and the government that you're currently running, because we do not have confidence in it. It does not serve us. It does not look like us. It does not speak to us. It's not about people. It's about you guys. We do not want any of that. We do not want part in it. And in 2024, more than anything, we're going to rally ourselves as young people. We're going to rally our parents. We're going to rally everyone who can vote in this country to go and put an X next to Rise and Zansi, a government that cares about people, and actually finally get a breath of fresh air, get a new government that is going to be about people. And that was what we wanted to do. And this is the work that we continue to do, ensuring that come 2024, Ramaphosa is fired, but together with his government, together with his administration, because we want none of the circus that is our parliament right now. We want something that is fresh, and we want people that are going to serve us. And we want a share, basically, in this country, in this economy. We want an education that is inclusive. We do not want to live in a country that is full of crime. Why can't we be a clean city like Rwanda? I mean, our neighboring states are showing us. So why can't we be that? You have the power to make that happen, Mr. President. That was the talk. But we do not see that. We do not see that. We'll hear you say, my fellow people, but we don't think we're your people because you don't care about us. And in 2024, we're going to go and we're going to go vote you out. And it's our mission. It's a generation mission. It's our mission as the Gen Z. It's our mission as AMA 2000. It's our mission to go out and vote out this president. Because should we be unable to do that, should we miss this opportunity to do that, we are afraid of what South Africa will become. Because that 65% might be 80%. And clearly, then all we've worked for, our parent sacrifices, ensuring that we are in school, will go to vain. And that's what we want to do with that moment.
That's it, Lawrence. That's the truth. To wait and see what 2029 might hold for us is too far. It's too long a wait. When we look at the trajectory of this country across all aspects of social life, it is frightening, the accelerated pace or the decline, in terms of just the quality of life and well-being. And I think, as Rise and Zansi were saying, we're not going to wait until 2029 to see, how bad things can get. And here's the thing about things getting bad, is that there comes a point where things are so bad that it becomes twice as hard to turn them around. For every single day that we have an ANC-led government under Cyril Ramaphosa, we are going down, and things are going down at an accelerated pace. And so in 2024, we must stop the bleeding, reclaim this nation, and get people who can work to really take us forward. We at Rise Mzansi, we talk about performance management and voting and elections being an opportunity to do performance management. All of us, whether you go to school or you've got a job or whatever it is, at some point someone asks you, have you done what you promised? If you don't, please, you must get out. And when you look at the KPIs, like Lawrence has spoken about, even just the National Development Plan, they set that plan for themselves with targets, and none of them except one have been achieved. Now, any self-respecting organization and professional will tell you that 1 out of 8 is a gross failure. And therefore, by performance management standards, you must exit. You must either be fired or you must leave. And 2024, we're going to make sure that that's our performance management for this government that continues to fail us. Gents, we've got 7 minutes to close. We will close promptly at 8. Dr. Ish, maybe one last question for you is, you represent a generation that is intrinsically connected to the governing party. And in this change that we are aspiring for, as you listen to Lawrence saying we're going to coordinate every single to this organization for years, even though it does not serve them. I'm keen to get your view as a message to your generation. When I talk to my father, I ask him, I say, just one last fight, Papa. One last fight. Please give us one last fight. We know that you're not happy with the conditions of this country, and the sacrifices that you made have not yielded the dividends and the fruits that you were promised in the preamble of the Constitution in 94. One last fight, one last time, and we will make sure we make it count. What would be your message to the generation of your peers, Dr. Ish?
Yeah. The fight for liberation and justice is a fight for truth. It's not a fight for compromise, justification, and rationalization of what is not right. I want to correct. I have never thought the ruling party will walk this way. I thought they will not succeed for reasons which in another day I'll share with you. But I did not know that there will be a horror of horrors. They are. It's also not true that all of us of my age have actually associated ourselves with one political organization. In fact, we celebrated the PAC, Pan African Congress, the ANC, Black Consciousness Movement, the Unity Movement, and others. So we worked together initially in the 70s after the ANC, PAC were banned. But we respected one another and acknowledged one another. But we're not blind to the fact of which instrument will take us anywhere. But the ANC was a blunt instrument to me. Now, message to my generation: liberate your minds, liberate your children, liberate this country, liberate Tanzania, South Africa. That's what I would say. Vote right. Voting is not correct itself if you vote around a party which makes you complicit to crime, corruption, ineptitude, and the situation which we find ourselves. That's what I would like my generation to know. And you are right. They must vote for their grandchildren. They have voted themselves. Indeed, they got nothing except to lose their dignity and respect of their own children. How many times have we heard young people say, we sold them out, we betrayed their future? I would like to plead to you young guys that I have never been part of that crime.
Thank you, Ntate Ish, and thank you for always, being there for us. You are not only a member of the National Leadership Collective, but you are like a father to many of us, and we appreciate you, because many of us grew up in families where fathers were not easy to find, and so the role of Black role models, strong leaders who are doing the right thing, is absolutely crucial and fundamental for the growth of this country. Lawrence, you get to close us off, my brother and my leader. What can people look forward to? We have got a journey ahead of us. We've done the People's Convention. There's a few other activities, but we are quickly racing towards 2024. What can people look forward to, and why should young people be concerned with voting RISE, and what is the proposition that RISE offers young people?
Yeah. I think the first thing, and this is what I also love about RISE Mzansi, is that we tell the truth as it is, right? The first thing is that if we do not go out and do something about this country, normally when I engage with young people, I normally say that, look, sometimes it does not even have to be about the country. Ask yourself, am I happy where I'm at? So I want young people to go ask themselves, are they happy where they are right now? And if they're not happy where they are right now, what is it that they're willing to do to ensure that they're not complaining in the next 5 years or in the next 3 years? And the answer is quite simple. Let us give 5, 10, or 30 minutes of our time and go queue. Personally, I will be the happiest person ever if I were to see in 2024 young people queuing in their school uniforms, young people waiting with camp chairs, piano, and everything else, queuing, and to say that, look, we are remaking 1994. We are correcting the injustices, the failure, and the humiliation that we've faced in this country. And we're going to go out and do it in a fun way, in a nice way, change the government that we have. It's simple. Yeah. Are we happy where we are? And if we're not happy, what are we willing to do about it? It cannot be that young people have to get 5 degrees and be demanded 10 years of experience before they can get an entry-level job that will not even sustain them because it pays so little. It cannot be. we need to do something about it as young people. We all do not need to be the loudmouths in the room. We do not need to be marching in the streets. We just need to be speaking and having conversations and honest conversations about where we are. We do not owe the ANC government anything, and nothing out there currently looks like something that has the ability to go change the situation that we're in, except Rise and Zansi. This is where young people are at. This is where people are thinking and are co-creating and are mobilizing people's power. We have a chance here to do something big. I'm obsessed with the idea of building something new and saying that, look, I was part of the people that changed that government. When it looked like it could not be done, I was part of the people who actually woke up and I changed that government. And I did not have to suffer much. I just had to wait for that 5 minutes or 15 minutes. So go out and register to vote. Go out and register to vote and go share the message wide and spread it out. Rise Mzansi is here for young people. Rise Mzansi is asking young people to literally rise. You're not happy? Rise. You do not have education? Rise. Your education has become very less? Rise. You're unemployed? Rise. The answer to everything right now is from Zanzi to rise. 2024 has to be our 1994. We do not care who steals the slogan. 2024 is our 1994. We must all wear this as young people. 2024 is our 1994. That's it.
Change is coming, brother. Change is coming. Thanks, my leader. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tracy, we see you. Louisa, thank you so much for staying on and giving, the words of encouragement for our young leader here. Pamela and Donald, we appreciate you. We've got some of our leaders here. Esther Mkhabela has been online, just sharing, some words of encouragement and confidence in our young leader, in Lawrence and the likes of Stan. Have also been here. So thank you everybody who has been listening. We've had an amazing conversation. We never have enough time, but it's just to give you a view of when we talk about young leaders, when we talk about leaders within Rise, how do they talk? What do they think about? What bothers them? How do they want to engage in the world of politics? And this was just an opportunity for you to tap into that. If you're young and you're passionate, please reach out to Lawrence. He's on social media, but if you don't have, all those social media, you can reach him on Lawrence at risemzansi.org. That Ish stays with us, walking this path, making sure that we don't make the mistakes that led us to this horrible place that we find ourselves in. But yeah, as per the instructions of our leader, Lawrence, please register to vote. Make sure you're correctly registered. And as we walk this journey towards 2024, galvanize as many people to see that the cost of doing nothing is absolutely too high. We cannot afford not to use the moment of 2024 as an inflection point that will change the trajectory of this country. We have lost too much, too often. And that's why even when the Boks win, we feel like the world has changed. Winning should be part of who we are. We were built and born to win. We are an incredible nation of people, but we just find ourselves led by people who are really subpar. And what we must do is build a country where leaders can take us forward to a brighter South Africa and future that we deserve. So, gents, thank you so much for your time. Sundays are always tricky. It's family time. Before I close, congratulations to you, Lawrence, for your achievement. Maybe just for 2 seconds, tell people what happened, why is it important, so that we can clap for you and celebrate you, my brother.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's our duty as young people, as we're working to fix this country, to go equip ourselves. So I, for the past 9 months, I've been at Future Elect. It's a SADC public leadership program that is equipping young people like myself who actually want to be ethical servant leaders in the society, to go get all the necessary skills around policy making and how do you carry yourself as a leader and how do you contribute, design thinking, center people in the policies that you're making. And I went through that program by Lindwe Mazibugo and Dr. Stembile Mbete, and I graduated today. So after here, I'm also going to, go have fun just a bit.
Well done, bro. Well done. We're so proud of you. We must continue to develop ourselves as leaders. We must commit to a lifetime of education and knowledge building. and we're so proud of you, my brother. It's tough, to be in Rise Mzansi, a fast-growing organization, and still be a student at UJ, as well as do Future Elect, and still be, a fantastic friend, brother, partner is tough work. So we are proud of you, and may God continue to bless and keep you. And go have a little bit of fun. You can arrive a little bit late for the meeting tomorrow. You deserve to be celebrated.
Thank you so much. Let's laugh.
Power. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Catch us next week Sunday, where we will profile our next National Leadership Collective member. I'm going to push for it to be Ndade-ish because I think it would allow this conversation to have continuity. I really want the world to understand the intricacies of your journey and the contribution that you've made. But yeah, we will see you next week. Everyone have a great week, and look after yourselves, and much love. God bless.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye.